Dr. Yaqui says that licorice root, ashwagandha, and I think parsley is good for your kidneys. And if you can get kidney filtration done just right, then that helps everything else, including the lymphatic system. I was doing my unemployment certification because you have to do those weekly. Every week, you have to list the companies where you put in applications, as also any career fairs or job seminars that you may have attended to try to get hired. So the intent is to prove that you're actively looking for work. And I remember back in 2013, I was doing that, but it wasn't a website back then. You had to do it on paper, and you had to drive to an office and hand that paper in. Fortunately, now it's a website and it's automated. So I much prefer the system we have now. So all you have to do is list four, a maximum of four. I had time on my hands, so I said, I'm just going to put everything in there. As long as I have it in by midnight, I'm going to put everything in there. So I went in my email history and Indeed history, LinkedIn history, and looked at all the dates of when I applied for jobs. And you can only put the ones for that week, right? Any jobs that you apply for prior to that week, it won't accept it, and obviously any after doesn't apply. But for last week, I saw that I had 20 jobs that I applied for. It's like, wow. Because you get in such a motion of applying and applying and applying, you don't, at least I don't at this point in time. You don't keep tracks. I've watched videos of people who do, and that is very admirable. They keep track of their job search. They dot every I and cross every T, and I think that's amazing. And I'm going to explain why I don't do that later on. But this process of filing the claim, and this is the first claim that I had to file where I had to list my jobs. So I tried to go back today and grab all the jobs that I put in that filing. And it didn't show it because the status changed to processing or to under review. So it doesn't show what you uploaded the previous day when it switches to that status, which is fine. But maybe that's a tweak that can be done for the future of that information system. So I decided this would be a good moment to look at all the jobs that I applied for between the end of September and now, roughly 6 weeks. And what did I come up with? Came up with 90 jobs on Indeed. 90 jobs on Indeed. And those are just the ones through Easy Apply. Those are ones that Indeed can keep track of through Easy Apply. It doesn't track the ones that where you click on apply and you apply on the company's website. It doesn't see all of that. So if I were to lump all of those in, then I would come up with about 100 to 120 jobs. So let's say 120 jobs on Indeed. And then on LinkedIn, I had close to 100. So let's say roughly 200 jobs in 6 weeks. And out of those 6 weeks, out of those 200 jobs, I had about 20 phone screens. And those phone screens did not go to the next step. Otherwise, we would not be having this discussion. But what I learned from all of that is persistence does pay, because imagine if I was less active in my job search, then I wouldn't have any phone screens at all, just based on those numbers. I wouldn't have any phone screens at all. And I know what my issue is, why I haven't gotten hired yet. It has everything to do with my resume and not the format of my resume. I have studied closely what the experts do. Simone Berry, who runs the GovTech program, um, brilliant lady who lays it out very well about resume writing. But there are others that I've looked at. And when I take all the advice together, it basically comes down to don't have paragraphs in your resume. And your resume just basically needs to be bullet points. So nothing fancy, no colors, no graphics, not even a straight line going across. You have to avoid that. But think about the person that is reading your resume. They have 100 resumes to read. Yours don't stick out because it's flashing and it looks fancy and has all these colors. Yours stick out because it is a relief. It's a relief from all that boredom. Think about when they see a resume that is just easy to look at because it's not so wordy. You could tell the words are clear, they're short, and you could just, it flows right on through. And you'd be surprised that there are a lot of people out there, they don't write like that. I actually don't write like that. It's something that I force myself into. But once I got into the swing of it, I saw the response to my resumes increase. And I'm pleased with that. I also worked with a staffing firm here recently. I actually got a call back from a staffing firm. Not just one, but this one staffing firm is actively working with me on job roles. And the thing is, don't ever talk about the jobs that you're applying for while you're applying for them, because that does jinx it. That is bad luck. So don't do that. But I got to work with this individual from the staffing firm, and they rewrite resumes because they have to for the type of jobs that I'm applying for through the staffing firm. And I got to see what they did, and it's textbook everything that I just told you. Bullet points, short, but the advantage that they have is they do this professionally all the time, so they know exactly how to do it the right way. And so I got to see it from a whole different vantage point. And they did things with the resume that I never thought was acceptable. Like they crammed some stuff together. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But they've been doing this for many years, and for many of the contracts that they got, it works. So working with this staffing firm, there's a strong chance that I might get a job here soon. Well, I shouldn't say soon. The type of job that I'm applying for and the ones that I'm getting really good feedback from here recently, they're multi-week processes. I asked those questions too. I asked them. I said, you know what? How does this work? How does that work? And then when I put the math together, and I even gave them, my feedback. I said, so based on everything you told me, we're looking at mid-December before I get hired, if everything works out. And they said yes. So I was like, oh, okay. So out of all of that I said about resumes and about the hiring process, when it comes to your talk with recruiters, you got to know how to be direct and simple. Now, I bring that up for this reason, because it actually ties into the national election we just had. So, and I have to bring that up because I actually did a research study on the presentation styles of presidents. So I did a research study. It was very short. It was like 2 days. So you might call that a research study, you might not. But it was 2 days of work. And I did this years ago. I didn't do this recently. I did this probably 7, 8 years ago or something like that. but I still have the documents. And I've used these documents. It's actually something that I use to help me in sales. So the topic of discussion in this research. So other people did this research, and then I did research on top of this. The topic of this research was the verbal skills, or the perceived credibility of Trump versus Obama. But not just those two, but all the presidents. It looked at the writings and the speeches of presidents. And there was a representative sample of people that looked at these writings. And they had to give feedback on who they thought was more trustworthy. And this is actual academic research. And the research actually shows that the more clear, direct, and to the point, with a dose of emotion in your statements, the more authentic and credible you appear to be. The problem with the way Barack Obama talks, which it worked for the time it worked, but most of the time it doesn't, is that it's too polished, it's too eloquent, and there's too many big words. There's too many flourishes in the language. And the studies show that most people, and when somebody talks like that, they also have a lot more pauses. And you can see them just thinking about what they're going to say next. This hits home for me because I naturally talk like that. I was raised to talk like that. So I had to unlearn that. The problem with that in the eyes of the audience is that people who talk like that come off as untrustworthy from a gut instinct standpoint. From the start, it's like from the get, they're like, do you believe them or don't you? And most people, they rather go with somebody that is to the point, straightforward, and clear. So when you're talking with people in these phone screens, especially in these interviews, the more you can nail it down and just lay it out, pop, 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 better off you're going to be. So one of the things that I did with my profile on the job networks, you know how in LinkedIn where you got your little profile picture, and it's in a little circle. One of the things that I noticed was that some people, they got a profile that's popping. And I'm like, you know what? I have the skills to do that. So I changed my profile picture. I got a profile picture of me with a red tie and a blue suit, and I'm looking sharp. And then my background image, it's all professionally done, AI generated art. And then I brought several AI generated art pieces and I merged them together and I reworked them and I blended them together. And then I put words on top of different parts, and I put, little marketing slogans on there, and it made it pop. And that actually raised my exposure in the job networks quite a bit. So I had recruiters reaching out to me. It was nice. But so I did that, and I continually enhanced my resume. I got profiles at major government sites, right, including USA Jobs. My resume is searchable on USA Jobs. I don't know what the new administration is going to do with federal positions. So there's some uncertainty there. So you don't really know if you should apply for federal positions or not. Because I do see the case from some people that, I watched this advice from this he's an actual HR person with the federal government, and he gives advice about all of that. And he was like, hey, well, he didn't beat around the bush. There is uncertainty. But the thing is that once you're past a probationary period with your federal position, after a year, then you pretty much have some buffer against new administrations. But that may change with this administration. They may change the way that all works in the future. And so there's some uncertainty with a lot of that. But there's some good benefits, as my father had tried to get across to me, to having a federal role. There's some good benefits. You could have a lifetime pension, you could have all kinds of stuff. It's like, yeah, he was right. But anyway, so um, I just keep it rolling. I just keep it active, and I think that the success rate on easy apply applications is very low. But like I said previously, you still should do that. That's the minimum. Keep the easy apply going. The reason is if you don't just passively do the easy apply, but you actually revisit your resume every now and then you're going to see yourself evolve your resume with what you are observing with these job descriptions, so that you are communicating more clearly how you relate to the position. Some people have said cover letters are not a thing. That's actually false. Yes, I know there are some recruiters that say they won't read cover letters. And they may not actually read a cover letter if you affix one with an application. But the fact that it's present as a file in the system will set you apart. They may not actually click on the cover letter and read it, but they'll say, oh, this person did a cover letter. So that's another thing that just says, oh, okay, let me see what's going on here. Because you better believe that, and this is if you're doing it on your own, which the majority of us do. But I also have, how many years is that? I'm going to say I have about 6 to 7 years of working, about 7 years working with a staffing agency. Not just one, but two. I worked with 2 major national staffing agencies. I worked with others, but I worked with 2 major staffing agencies. One I worked with for 5 to 6 years. Another I worked with for another year to 2 years. And I didn't just work with them, but I worked on the inside. And what I know about the staffing agencies is that they have salespeople. So those salespeople go out and they actually, they're making a case for you. And so, whereas you may think that recruiters are only just looking at resumes, they're looking at other factors. And someone that can actually get their attention and talk to them and make the case for them, that's just like a cover letter. That's an extra piece of information, an extra thing that can help move you through this process. Now, while I say all of this, if you've came through this far, I have some other things that I want to share with you about the future, right? So, and this advice can apply to everybody, but it's particular for those that are in IT, software development, database administration, networking, all of this, and you see all these layoffs and all this kind of stuff. Now, it may be that AI, whether it's OpenAI or XAI, right? These jobs just melt away. It's possible. It's very much possible. I've seen Elon talk about universal high income, right? So I'm apolitical, as you may have seen in my recent videos. I'm apolitical. I don't do Democrats and Republicans. What I do is I do entrepreneurship, business. I do economics, right? So I may not agree with the plans of the elites, but I understand the mindset of the elites, if that makes sense. And that is, don't get caught up in this or that. Find your advantage across all of it. That's where you have to be. Because that's really how life works anyway. I mean, how long does a Democrat administration last? How long does a Republican administration last? And if you place all your bets on one or the other, then you are guaranteeing yourself some protracted downtime. Whereas if you can work with both and work across all of them, right, then you just keep it steady. So, one of the things I want to mention is competency based college degrees. And there are degrees you can get out there, where you normally take 4 years to get a bachelor's, you can get those degrees in like 6 months to a year. So if you have the opportunity to do the competency-based degrees, I would advise doing that, because it's a no-brainer, as they say. So get a competency-based degree. People say, hey, you don't need a degree. No, you don't. But it doesn't hurt to have one if you can get one. And especially if you can get one, not for $100,000, but get one for $5,000. Get one for $5,000. Doing good. See? So get you one of those degrees, right? But you have to do it a certain way in order to do it in 6 months to a year. It can still take you 4 years, because even the competency-based degree programs will have you go through 4 years for a bachelor's. But if you do it the right way, where you can test out of the class, then testing out of the class can cut that down from 4 years to 12 months, in some cases 6 months. And there are people that have legit done it in like two months. They got a degree. And these are not fake degrees. They are real, accredited, true degrees where you're not in this massive student loan debt, right? I paid off my student loans. I did. I paid off my student loans. But the advice in the future is you can still do student loans for competency-based degrees, but you're not doing a student loan where you are getting a loan over a 4-year period that you have to pay back. You're getting a loan over a 2-month or 6-month period, maybe even a 12-month period. And a loan like that is much easier to pay back, right? And so you could do it like that. You can also get grants and all this stuff. These ideas I got from some great videos, and when I knew that they were telling the truth, because I already knew about these programs, but it's how people can communicate these things that make the difference, and the fact that they've done it. And the fact that they've done it, because I've actually looked at these things over a long period of time, and but I've always had that doubt. It's like, you can't really do that, But there are people, they've done it, so that's what changed my mind. The fact that it's evidence. They did it, it can be done. So if you have the mindset and the intelligence to be able to just pick up on information, and you already have experience, go get you one of these competency-based degrees. Second thing, Google, Microsoft, and a few others, they got their own certifications that in some cases, people are saying that in some cases are better than CompTIA. Now, they may not outrank the CISSP, right? Oh, how does Michael know about that? Because Michael studies everything. But they may not outrank the CISSP if you were like going for cybersecurity or anything like that. But I can't tell you how many times recruiters have asked me about certifications. And I used to have certifications, but I let my certifications lapse. I had back in the day, I'm talking about 2007, 2008, and a little bit earlier than that, I had like 10 certifications. I worked on them too in my spare time, and it was great. But I don't know of any certification that is a lifetime certification. So they all just, after like a year or two. So once you start down certifications, they're not like a degree. You have to keep them going. Now, I only recently learned about the Microsoft and the Google, and I'm going to go for those. And I'm going to see how quickly I can get those. But I don't know if those certifications will have expiration times on them. They just might. But so that's something else to think about and to consider. And then finally, to wrap this up, I used to avoid going to those local meetups. Like when I was younger, I used to go to them, like the .NET developers group. People just meet together and talk about .NET, but a lot of that stuff, like the Oracle group and all of that, that stuff just got boring. I was like, I got other things to do with my time. But that's where you do your networking. So you go to those meetups. So I will start making an appearance at some of those. I'm gonna start going to those. So that's the career blueprint that at a very practical level, right? It's just executing that. No quick fixes. Everything takes time. And if you want something that is going to be quality and that's going to last, then you have to watch out for the shortcuts. There are shortcuts, but they need to be based on substance and quality that's already there. So, if anybody has any questions about that or want to chat about that, let me know. But I'll see you later.